don't stand still well. So what we're talking about tonight is homegrown innovation, and I'm here to tell you right now, not only is Greenville still in the entire upstate, if not the state, still a hotbed for innovation, but we have so much that's actually sitting on the shelves, not being used. And that's really what I want to talk to you guys about tonight. Little background, physics major undergraduate. I became a physics major because I went to NC State, and I watched them put a beer can in a coil, shoot a whole bunch of electricity through it, and it collapsed the beer can and made a sonic boom in the room, hit me in the chest. Okay? When you're 18 years old, that makes an impression. Okay? And I said, I want to do this. By the way, there's math involved. Ended up becoming a computer programmer, self-taught, and I have all the pros and cons of that, but this was in the 80s, and there just really wasn't a lot of structure to that. Recognized also that most attorneys have no idea what technical people do. I would read 30 pages of contracts when I was in that business before law school, and I would tell people, I have no idea what we're supposed to deliver. So I'm like, there's a niche here. Ended up going to law school, wanted to be a prosecutor to put drug dealers in jail. By the way, Miami Vice was popular then. Decided I was not good enough to put anything together in 90 days, which is a speedy trial requirement, so I found intellectual property in law school. That puts me where I am now. Intellectual property's got a long history. For those of you that don't know, Thomas Jefferson was the first patent commissioner. He kept the first US patents. The first one was for soap, by the way. And it was in a box, a shoe box, kept under his bed. If you go to the patent office about 10 years ago, all the patents were kept in shoes. That name carried over. South Carolina actually passed the first Patent Act before the federal government did that. So we have been doing innovation way longer than anybody imagines. The IP continuum, this is what I want to start with. When we talk about intellectual property, I don't want to talk about the legal definition. I want to talk about exactly what makes intellectual property in the broad sense what it is. And we generally start with imagination in no particular order. We start with imagination, we innovate something, we have the intellectual property in the legal sense, there's a solution involved, there's knowledge that gets developed out of that. And this circle is continuous. Okay, the more we learn about things, the more we're able to create things. There's all kinds of educational models that say when you get, unlike traditionally industry people in a room and they start chatting, innovation comes out of that. It's the thinking out of the box. It's looking at something a new way. And I would encourage all of you to be thinking about that for where there's a point to this, when I get to that. If you look at intellectual property, there's no question that we're seeing an increase in it. And this is just one measure of patent filings. The red is the United States companies and individuals filing patents. The blue is overseas companies. You can see somewhere around 2008, 2009, foreign companies started taking an interest in protecting intellectual property in the US. I mean, that's a big deal. Why? We became interesting. They were here. The globalization, the flattening of the world occurred. We see it in many, many areas. If you look at intellectual property, particularly from the legal, what I do for a living, it covers many industries, many company sizes, many different countries. Well, last time I counted, we had, just myself, and there's many intellectual property attorneys in the upstate, just myself, I had 46 active matters in 30 countries and was working on them. I have learned some fun translations, by the way. Well, I won't share with them. Some of them are hilarious. We bring good things to life. You've heard the slogan? Translated from Chinese, we bring your ancestors back from the dead. So I really get to see a lot of the fun things about crossing things like that. Now what I want to talk about, basic economics, this should be what most people are very familiar with, the typical supply and demand curve. What intellectual property does is it constrains supply. And sometimes artificially. Actually, it is artificial. When you constrain supply, many things happen. You become a single source, you become desirable, you become the place that somebody wants to get that. That's an important part of intellectual property. Anybody here open source programmers? Oh, good, no enemies. Okay. So when you have the constraints on these supplies, it gives you some piece of control, an amount of something you can do. That's why when I talk about this presentation, most of it is the stuff I can control, and I'll tell you why. When we want to be able to do that because the quality of life affects it, business-friendly societies become out of intellectual property. I can go on and on, but that's many, many benefits to actually having protectable intellectual property. And just to be clear, just because you have the ability to monopolize the invention doesn't mean you have to. You're free to give it away. There's nothing wrong with that. But by having that control, lack of a better word, some things happen. Foreshadowing, South Carolina's got a little bit of a habit, we're getting better at it. We develop cool technology, we create companies, the companies get traction, they become pre-revenue, they become post-revenue, the revenue becomes positive, and then a venture capitalist comes in and moves it out of the state. We have a history of that. When you have intellectual property that's controlling the technology, or something that's desirable here, you have the ability to say, hey, let's keep it here. Let's not do that. Okay, so that's one of the benefits of looking at this from an intellectual property legal definition standpoint. If you look at the inflow of foreign direct investment, so remember the foreign companies are interested here. If you look at a study that was done from these years, 13% of the money that comes in the United States is from something called a greenfield project. We call that BMW, Boeing, Volvo. Greenfield is nothing as complicated as a big green field of grass that they break ground, build a building, and put a plant. Greenfield. 87% is through mergers and acquisitions. Some outside entity coming in and looking at something that's already here and doing something called a soft landing. Let's open up a regional office. Let's buy this company and get a footprint in the US. We see foreign companies in the upstate. The average salary of foreign-owned company is $77,000. The average US company, $55,000. So we don't mind them being here. It irks me a little bit when I see, and I will not name the paper that's not the Greenville News, it's another paper. When the paper says things like, we do not want foreign companies coming here and taking American jobs. We do not want to see people coming into this country. We do not want to see all this immigration reform stuff you're hearing about politically. So my response was, I called the reporter, and I said, I read your article. Interesting to me. I said, what do you think? Oh, it's all open, this is what our readers want. We don't want any of this happening. So I said, so we should tell Michelin, we should tell BMW, just pack up and leave, right? Silence on the other side. I said, you gotta be thinking about this a little bit broader. Isn't this country founded on people coming over here? That's kind of what I thought. My last name's Kim, I might be prejudiced. So anyway, here's an excellent example of when the rubber starts hitting the road. So there's this little company called Under Armour. You might have heard of them, but back when I'm talking about this, you did not. They had this idea. They wanted to have people who were athletic and Cam Newtons of the world. And they wanted to go out there and put clothes on them that had performance fabric on it. Performance fabric. There's nothing about fabric that performs. You know, but Under Armour had this idea. Said, we're going to do this. They went to a company called Milliken and said, what have you got? So Milliken said, well, we've got this product and it can probably do what you want, but we're not going to make it because we can't make enough of it for it to make us money. Okay? Great innovation, wicking performance fabric. The big multinational decided not enough money. And I don't mind, it's not Milliken, I can't share who this was, but I had conversations with this multinational in the upstate. Their criteria for shelving innovation is if it does not make more than $10 million in the first 2 years. That's like the people who say, well, if lottery's only at $10 million, I'm not going to spend the $2. You know, it's that's how it feels to me. So now you're seeing where I'm heading. Shelved innovation. There's a ton of it out there, and it's sitting in the multinationals, and it's sitting in the universities. There's one individual at Clemson University, and his portfolio is to do 125 new developments every year. He doesn't have time to get to them. We're actually working on a project to figure out how to get those all to where he picks the ones that he wants to pursue. What happens to the other 90 that are good ideas? Right? So this technology is here, it's just not being used. We also know where this ended up. If you look at Under Armour's most recent annual report, where is it? Milliken & Company is one of the top 4 producers, and they're still doing it today. When you had that collaboration of this idea for performance fabric and this small startup company, and they got with a multinational, and they pulled intellectual property off the shelf, and they commercialized it in a way a small company can do that a large one cannot, magic happened. This is what I think we need to work on. We have all the pieces here. What do we have? We have the multinationals and shelf technology. We have the entrepreneurship space, the people that can shuck and jive in the marketplace like the multinationals can't. And we have research foundations and we have research universities that can fill in the gaps. Okay, what is Clemson very good at? They're very good at solving a problem. Take the entrepreneur, give them the multinational technology, send them to Clemson to refine it, to commercialize it, and Under Armour's happen. That's all right here. Here's the interesting part. How many people here from a multinational company? Right? Why not? That's what we have to work on. Okay? You've got to get all these people in the room. Anecdotally, I talked to a venture capitalist and I talked to an angel investor. They are, whatever this means, considerably more likely to invest in a company that is using technology from a multinational because the multinational knows how to commercialize a product. They're more likely to invest if that's the core base of the company. Okay, that's a big deal. So here's what our challenge is. Our challenge is we have international connectors. I myself am in 30 countries. Other lawyers are doing the same thing, nothing special about me. Upstate Alliance, economic development arm, they have offices with the Department of Commerce in Munich, in Spain and Switzerland. We have a marketing arm that allows us to go tell these foreign companies, hey, look at the cool stuff we have here. All we gotta do now is create it. So what do? We take IP generators, multinationals, universities. We take small, mid-sized businesses, we glue them together. We help fill in the gaps with universities, colleges, we find manufacturers, and the next thing you know, we have Under Armour. Have these conversations more, and that's the idea I want to leave you guys with. Now I want to do some fun stuff. But anyway, this is the magic to me. This is where we need to be heading. So what's South Carolina done? What are some of our homegrown inventions? The submarine. Right? Now I don't mind telling you this, probably not a lot of commercial value in this particular model right now. But with that said, this is where it got started. I don't mind telling you that Jerry's a dear friend of mine. And when I was putting this presentation together and I found out he was doing it, I took out all my wind turbine slides. So I'm just telling you, I was going to talk about it, but it's not going to happen. What else did we do? Blingham Ginger Ale, right here in South Carolina, right? And I love this stuff. Okay, this is an adult crowd. I love it particularly with bourbon. The Mazer, which was the foundational work for the laser, no question about that. I mean, everybody, this one's pretty famous. Inventor Technologies. This technology came out of Milliken. It's a startup company here. It's got 50% of the weight of Kevlar, 80% of the strength. It's got a synergistic effect that you put with fiberglass. Formula One cars are using it right now, right here in South Carolina. We have North American Rescue. There's the sign up on 385 that leaves. No, they do not rescue birds. Okay? But they make medical devices. This is something called the cat tourniquet. What this thing does is this thing is single-handedly deployed on somebody who's been injured in the battlefield. To date, almost over 2,000 lives that have been saved that would have otherwise been lost because of that. Sold right here out of Greenville. Awesome. The Zyke, how fun is this right here? Guy was a landscaper, came up with this idea, saw it on television, saw one of his other ideas on television, interviewed a couple of law firms, interviewed a couple of organizations, said forget this, sold his company, started this. This will be their third year of over 7-digit sales. Okay, right here. The idea I want you guys to take with you is this. Let's take these technologies that are sitting on the shelf. Let's put them with the entrepreneurs. Let's fill in the gaps. Let's get these invested. Let's create economic development for our area with the whole idea of rising tide floats all boats. And let's start all over and do it again. Thank you very much.